President Trump and his allies say he has been completely exonerated after the special counsel investigation found no conspiracy or coordination between his campaign and Russia. The Attorney General's decision on obstruction of justice, or statement on obstruction of justice, is under scrutiny this morning. Joining me now is Republican Congressman Michael Waltz from Florida. Congressman, always a pleasure to have you on New Day. You were one of 420 members of the House of Representatives that voted to release the full Mueller report. Yeah. This Monday morning, do you feel that the full report should be made public?
Sure, absolutely. And I think Attorney General Barr made it clear in his report that he is working to make it public, that number one, that he's working through grand jury rules, and number two, he's working through national security concerns to make it public. I voted unanimously with every other member to make it public, and I think that's something we should do. But John, can we just take a step back for a moment? You know, I'm a combat veteran. I've served all over the world in some pretty difficult locations. I think this is really a win for democracy. There was so much hand-wringing and breathless reporting on a dictatorship and would rule of law prevail, and I think it has prevailed. The American system has prevailed, and we can't take for granted that this doesn't happen all over the world, where a head of state is hit with very, very serious allegations, bordering on treason, frankly, and we have another part of our government do a full investigation, but now we have to accept the findings of those investigations. But at the end of the day, I do think as Americans, we need to take a step back, and this is a big win for our democracy here.
Given the Democratic result, as you say here, and given the thoroughness of the Mueller investigation, was it correct for the president over the last 20 months to personally attack Robert Mueller?
Well, look, I have always said, let's let the investigation play out. But that applies on both sides. Sure. How many people up until yesterday are still calling for impeachment, are still saying there's collusion, are pounding the table that it absolutely happened, and yet now we have a report that everyone put so much faith into, and now you're watching people pivot away from it and start looking towards other things. Mind you, to your point, before the full report is even made public, they're already kind of dismissing it. And to the second point, I think it's worth noting, as you just mentioned, how thorough this investigation was. I didn't even fully realize it. 19 attorneys, over 40 FBI agents, analysts, accountants, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, 13 countries that we reached out to, and of course, over 2 years of investigation. So at some point, enough is enough. We have to accept the findings. And I think as a country, we need to move on.
And some of the findings that are in here, and I know these are among the findings that are probably most important to you, given your service record here, is William Barr, the Attorney General, lays out how Robert Mueller found that the Russians tried to attack our electoral process on two different fronts, one with misinformation and two by hacking into the Democrats. And that shouldn't be overshadowed in whatever political debate is over, whether there was collusion or not.
Yeah, so there's two key pieces there from a national security perspective. One, look, our democracy and the heart of our democracy, our electoral system, is absolutely under assault, not just by the Russians, but by other state actors such as the Chinese as well. And they're doing it in two ways. One, a misinformation campaign where, through social media and other mechanisms, on the one hand, they're supporting a Trump rally. On the other hand, they're supporting a Black Lives Matter rally and just trying to foment discord in our democracy. And then secondly, there's a government-funded, government-directed hacking campaign to expose misleading and to expose, obviously embarrassing information on the part of the different candidates. That absolutely has to be stopped. I call on the Trump administration to call it out. I will say, and I will give credit, I have been personally briefed. I'm on the intelligence subcommittee of the Armed Forces Committee. I've been personally briefed on what the intelligence community and the Defense Department did in 2018. Continuing to do heading into 2020, they deserve a lot of credit. We did not have the same issues in 18, and I think we're going to be in good shape going into 2020, but we are absolutely under attack.
There's always seemed to be a discrepancy between the intelligence community attitude about the Russian attacks on the U.S. electoral system and the president's public pronouncements on it, because they appear very different in tone and substance. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I think, I'm hoping now that we've moved beyond this investigation and he is not being personally accused of colluding with a hostile foreign power, which I think clearly there was no collusion, and at some point we need to accept that and move on. I'm hoping that tone and rhetoric will change. But I also saw many members of the Democrat Party yesterday on your show saying on CNN, saying nothing is being done about the attacks on our democracy, and that's just untrue. I don't think they're fully informed. A lot is being done, and very successfully. I think your viewers need to understand and appreciate that.
I have two last questions for you. Number one, the Country Caucus that you were a part of here. I'm very interested in any kind of bipartisan effort here. You were gathering with other veterans to try to focus on issues that every member can agree on.
Yeah, so look, where do we go going forward here? And I think everyone needs to decide. I think the Democrats need to decide. Are they going to spend the next few years tearing down this president, or are we going to spend it governing? I co-founded, along with two Democrats and another Republican, a caucus called For Country. We are about mission. We are about country. We are all combat veterans. I could tell you the enemy's bullets could care less about political party, about race, religion, creed. They only care if you're an American or not. That's the ethos that we're bringing. We still disagree on a lot of issues, but how do we get to a point where we can have a beer at night, so to speak, find common ground, and find how to move the country forward? And that's what this caucus is all about. That's what I ran on. That's what I'm all about. That's what every veteran and every member should be about. We put our lives on the line for this country from day one. And I think we should be about for country, not necessarily for party.
If we can't agree on beer, Congressman, what can we agree on?
Exactly.
Congressman Michael Waltz.